Welcome, curious souls of our digital universe, and welcome to a new exclusive episode from Whispers of Turkish Stars, your refuge where the pulse of celebrity hearts turns into stories, where a quiet glance can echo louder than any headline. Before we step into this intimate and fragile tale, remember to subscribe to the channel, tap like, and if you wish to lift our work even higher, press that precious join button. Now, settle in, take a deep breath. Because what we are about to share reopens memories, hopes, and truths few dared to imagine. The scene did not unfold on a red carpet or under blinding spotlights, but in a private home where a handful of friends had gathered to let the week fall from their shoulders. Low conversations drifted like smoke, laughter chimed against the rims of glasses, and confidences moved in whispers above the soft glow of a playlist no one needed to change. No one in that room, so sure of the evening's simplicity, could have foreseen the sudden shift waiting just beyond the next sip of wine. In the middle of that delicate balance sat Ozan Akbaba, shoulders slightly hunched, the posture of a man who had run out of places to hide from his own thoughts. He spoke not with the bravado of a star, but with the tremble of a man standing at the edge of a truth he could no longer pretend not to see. "I don't know if I'll ever see her again. And that scares me more than I can explain." The words fell like stones on water, sending ripples through every heart in the room. The chatter stalled. The music, suddenly too alive, seemed to recede. Even the ice in the glasses stopped clinking, or so it felt. From that moment on, all roads led to one name, to one presence that had never really left any of them, Sinem Ünsal. The talk that followed wasn't born of idle curiosity or cheap gossip. It came from the blunt sincerity in Ozan's voice, that particular tone people use when they finally stop performing for the world and surrender to what aches. And then he said something else, something that sounded as if it had been locked away far too long. "I've always sensed something rare between us, but I never had the courage to say it when it mattered." His hand turned an empty glass in small nervous circles, as if he could stir a way out of the storm in his head. Anyone who had watched Ozan and Sinem closely over recent months knew their connection wasn't just a memory from a professional past. Between scenes and after long days, there had been kindnesses so casual they almost went unnoticed, a snack placed beside him when he looked drained, a protective glance from him when she seemed overrun by the noise of the moment. No grand gestures, just small vows repeated without words. And yet, after their separation, packaged politely as amicable, as if that could hold back the undertow, neither of them had spoken of anything raw or private. No one. Not until that night. The next morning, the world didn't receive a press release or a statement. Instead, it got a single story on Sinem Ünsal's Instagram, a muted image with a phrase so short it felt almost like a secret note, yet sharp enough to both pierce and soothe. "Some people never really leave, they just learn to live in silence." It took the fans a breath, maybe less, to draw the line between that sentence and the late-night confession that was now moving through the city like a rumor you can't outrun. Twitter exploded, Instagram dragged old clips back into the light, TikTok couldn't stop stitching meanings together. "It's for him. They haven't closed this chapter, no one can tell me otherwise. This is unfinished business, period." By afternoon, a respected entertainment journalist said out loud what many already suspected: Ozan and Sinem had begun speaking again in recent weeks. Not in fireworks and declarations, but in a string of messages that tasted unmistakably of open wounds and feelings that had never found their landing. Ozan's words didn't come out of nowhere, the journalist added. He sounded exposed, yes, but also quietly hopeful. "You don't speak like that if you've truly moved on." Soon after, a friend close to Ozan added a detail that felt like a sudden light in a locked room: Ozan had written a long letter to Sinem. Not a rushed note, not a clumsy midnight paragraph, but a message he had been writing and rewriting on his phone for a long time, holding everything he hadn't managed to say face to face. Among the lines were confessions simple and devastating in equal measure. "I never wanted to let you go. I just didn't know how to hold on without hurting you. And, if one day you think of me again, I just want you to know I'm still here." He never sent it. The draft sat there, like a heartbeat you can't bring yourself to listen to. When asked why, the friend only shook his head. He didn't find the courage to press send. As for Sinem, she seemed to adopt a gentle calm in public, a poise that felt almost medicinal. No impulsive replies, no coded comments beyond that single story: no dramatic gestures to feed the fire. But those who truly know her could feel the shift. Lately, she drifted into stretches of unusual quiet. Her eyes sometimes wandered back to a place no one else could see, the kind of far away that only old tenderness can draw from a person. She left certain questions unanswered that she would normally tackle with clarity. A close friend confided carefully, almost as if words might bruise her. When something touches her deeply, she doesn't make a show of it. She steps back a little, becomes quieter, and she's doing that now too. With the public fascination boiling, fans grabbed their magnifying glasses and dove into the digital archives. They resurfaced interviews from years past, paused on moments that had once seemed ordinary and now appeared to glow with a new, unmistakable heat. Backstage clips of stolen glances started to feel like clues. Comments poured in. "We never got over them, they are the definition of chemistry, get them back together already." Then came a seemingly minor note that thundered across timelines. Sinem was photographed outside a cafe, cup in hand, holding a book Ozan had once named as his favorite. Coincidence or a whisper only one person was meant to hear? The picture became a Rorschach test for hearts in denial and hope in equal measure. Another trusted friend offered a more human detail about Ozan that reframed the story entirely. Ozan, he said, had started therapy, not for a headline or the applause that emotional honesty can sometimes bring, but to ask himself a question that had been following him like a shadow: why, when he held something precious, had he chosen to let it slip through his fingers? He's facing parts of himself he had avoided for years, the friend said. It's tough, it's painful, but it's necessary. And I think it's all surfacing now because what he feels for Sinem never really faded. As for Sinem's circle, discretion has become almost sacred. No one wants to step into a space that delicate and risk breaking what might be reshaping itself all on its own. Still, a member of her team let something meaningful slip in an unguarded moment. Recently she's asked more than once whether Ozan will be at upcoming events. He hasn't appeared at those in months. And every now and then, when she mentions him, there's a smile, one of those small, unguarded smiles that says more than 1,000 words. And so, here we are, not at an ending, but at the kind of pause where you can hear the next chapter clearing its throat. The answer isn't ripe yet, you can feel it hanging just above their heads, waiting for the right day, the right courage, or perhaps just a moment of grace. But one thing feels undeniable: this is not a closed book. Not for Ozan, not for Sinem, and not for the hearts that have been watching them all this time like the tide watches the shore. Is the page turning toward an inevitable reconciliation? Or is this only a tender flare of nostalgia destined to dim again when morning arrives? You tell me. Leave your thoughts in the comments, because your voice shapes the conversation we all share. Before you go, tell us, too, which celebrity should we explore in the next video here on Whispers of Turkish Stars? Thank you for staying with us through this deeply felt story, stitched together by truths and confidences that rarely see the light. Remember to subscribe to the channel, tap like, and if you want to lift the Whispers of Turkish Stars family even higher, click join. We'll see you in the next video. And never forget, in the world of entertainment, every silence can hide a story waiting to be told. But if you're still with me, consider the echoes. Consider the tiny rituals that outlive the credits and the premieres. Once, on a set where exhaustion had hung like a curtain, Sinem noticed the way Ozan went quiet when everyone else grew louder. She brought him something to nibble without a word and let him return to himself. Once, when the world pressed too close to her, he stood between her and the noise, not to be seen, but to give her the space to breathe. These things don't burn bright, they glow. The kind of glow that lingers. Maybe that is why the letter was written. Not to win her back in a dramatic stroke, not to make herself the hero of his own redemption, but to tell the truth that had survived the distance: I never wanted to let you go. Maybe that is why the draft remained unsent. He knows letters can't fix what needed time, honesty, and the willingness to confront the places we hide. And maybe that is why Sinem chose the quiet of a single line on a muted image. Because sometimes the heart's loudest speech is a whisper only the right person can hear. If they meet again, it might not be in the glow of a stage or beneath the hum of cameras. It might be at another small gathering, where the air smells like espresso and old wood, or a phone buzzes and no one reaches for it right away. It might be in the familiar awkwardness of people who once built a language only they understood and are now trying to remember the grammar of it. Ozan might finally say the words he had pressed into that draft, and Sinem might answer with the kind of look that says, "I heard you even when you were silent." Or they could simply sit, let the moment be. They could decide to be careful with a love that never asked for an audience. Until then, fans will keep combing interviews for the smile that lingers a beat too long, for a phrase that sounds as if it carries a key. They will replay the cafe photo, argue over the book's meaning, and post side-by-sides that make strangers feel suddenly, unexpectedly tender. The talk won't stop, but in the middle of all that noise, perhaps the two people at the center of it will keep doing their quiet work, he in the therapist's chair with his restless honesty, she in the soft discipline of her day, choosing steadiness over spectacle. And if fate is kind, if the timing is finally ready, what began as a tremor in a private room might turn into something steadier, kinder, more deliberate. Whatever happens, remember, not all stories are meant to be solved by us. Some are meant to be witnessed with care, to be held by those who understand that love's timeline is not a schedule but a tide, pulling back, rushing forward, leaving gifts on the sand we only notice when the water is still. Stay with us, keep watching with compassion, and we will keep listening for the moment when a silence turns into a story, and a story, perhaps, into home. This has been Whispers of Turkish Stars. Your seat is always waiting.